The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
I was able to pick out Michael Dorn's character right away because,
I
mentioned, I've been watching like tons of Star Trek Next Generation.
Right,
so.
yeah, I'm sure that's like burned into your brain.
Yeah, his character whoops ass too.
He's a battle boy.
He's a big old lion man.
Battle cat.
Is that his character's name?
I have no idea.
Oh, I was willing to believe you.
His name is Battle Beast.
Oh, okay. Well, close enough.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, a proud member of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. My name is JD. I'm joined by two very lovely individuals, gentlemen. First is Mr. Kyle.
Hey.
So happy to have him here. And Matt is also here.
He said I was lovely.
Sure. And this week on the show, we are covering the first season of Amazon Prime's Invincible, adaptation of a much beloved. Would we call Invincible an indie comic?
Yeah, I mean, I would
ish.
Image is, in comparison to the big two, Marvel, DC, it's still fairly indie.
All right, fair enough. But yes, in the vein of The Boys, that adaptation, it's a very gory, violent take on superheroes in a somewhat realistic world. If you are at all squeamish, like my wife is,
maybe stay away from this show.
This may not be the show for you.
Or The Boys, for that matter. Yeah, because I would say The Boys has done more heinous shit, but it's because it's in live action. So
I don't know. I feel like this, because it's animated, the show is very okay with showing you, like, here's all the organs falling out of a dude. And lingering on that shot for a second.
Did you watch The Boys?
It's been a minute.
Because
I know they have heads exploding and shit.
Listen, the very first episode of that show, I think even the first 10 minutes, the Flash equivalent of that show just liquefies somebody by running through them and just leaves viscera all over the ground.
I mean, yeah, it's just blood. It's like goo splatters or whatever, but there's you can see their entrails and shit in Invincible, and it's gross.
Yeah, well, because it's animated, so they get the detail work.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking to its comic book origins, though, we should mention that the original comic was created by Robert Kirkman, who is also very well known for The Walking Dead, which has its own very successful adaptation for
media franchise.
Oh yeah. I have no idea because it has Fear the Walking Dead is a spinoff, and I think they're doing another one, and they're planning to do a trilogy of movies and stuff. It's crazy.
Oh god.
But so Robert Kirkman made Walking Dead and Invincible. They both debuted in the same year.
Wow.
But Invincible debuted first, which I didn't know. It came out in January 2003, and then Walking Dead came out in October of 2003. Invincible would go on to have 144 issues, and it wrapped up in February of 2018. And then I believe Walking Dead also wrapped up in 2018, roughly around the same time. I know it had a bit more issues, but yeah, both of those series wrapped up around that same time.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, since I think Kyle's is the only one of us that's actually read the original comic.
He's in the process of reading the original comic.
I mean, he's read any of it. Yeah. Kyle, I mean, I guess just to start us off, compared to the comic, how would you kind of generally rate this first season?
I mean, just going off of it being a cartoon, I would rate it pretty high. I think it's one of the best superhero adaptations I've seen outside of DC movies, Marvel movies. I liked it more than that. As far as being faithful, there's a lot of changes and different stuff like that, but I don't think they really matter. I think it makes it more cohesive in the animated form.
Sure.
So you were talking about how you preferred the way that things play out in the show as compared to like what you've seen in the comics so far, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I think enough time has passed where they can creator can make it more his vision in a sense.
Sure.
When you start out a comic, you're pretty much just going through it, but when you have almost 20 years and a fucking giant budget where you can do whatever you want, I think you can kind of change the story more to what you see, different stuff like that. There's more of an impact on certain things than just reading it through a comic.
Sure,
If that
sure.
makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not to knock the comic or anything. I think the comic's good, but I think there's a lot of more impact in the animation than that.
Sure.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, just more just playing to the strengths of the medium that it's being adapted to and stuff.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I mean, just from because I haven't read through the comics, but I have seen bits from the Invincible comics like over the years, and yeah, I don't know what it was like. I always liked the character designs, but the comic never really jumped out at me as something that seemed like a must read or anything. I'd heard it was good and stuff, but watching through the first season, it does make me want to actually check out the comics. But there's also part of me that doesn't want to because I don't want to potentially get spoiled on potential future stuff in the show. But because you've mentioned that they've basically changed a lot of stuff around or they've restructured how stuff goes, I figure it's not that much of an issue, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pick and choose thing on that. Not to mention that the comic's been out for 15 years. If
Yeah,
anything,
Right.
exactly.
spoiling is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily spoiling, just more like, yeah. But you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing with
yeah, go ahead,
this
go.
was last year I found a box of comics and I was really big into collecting Tick comics.
Right.
And to celebrate him reaching 100 issues, he started doing team ups with characters. And the first one he did was with Invincible. So there's Invincible with the Tick.
That's awesome.
And it's pretty funny because there's a lot of kind of in jokes between the two franchises together. So there's a issue where they're fighting like red goo monsters. So there's like a page where they're just beating the shit out of these goo monsters, and it just looks like blood, and they're all covered in like red goop. So it's kind of funny stuff like this. And then they, I don't know if you guys seen the thing where Invincible teamed up with Spider-Man.
Mm-mm.
I was aware that he was part of a Marvel crossover, but I didn't know the specifics about it.
Well, there's a joke where there's a lineup of Marvel characters, and he's like, "Oh, let me guess your names," and then he starts listing people.
Oh, I think I might have seen a little bit of that. Yeah.
So they redo that joke in this one, where he's trying to name everybody, and then it's like completely accurate.
Was that when they're in the middle of like the tryouts for the Guardians of the Globe?
I think so. This is more towards Marvel stuff, though.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, the whole thing that I bring this up is when I found these comics last year, these were probably from 2014 or something. I saw the Madman one, and I was like, "Oh, I want to read Madman." So I had read through Madman, really liked it, whatever. And Invincible was going to be the next thing, but I kind of waited on it with this coming out. So that's that on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and then even in the comic too, like there's crossovers within the comic and the company that comes from Image because I know that there's, just from what I've read, that there's crossovers with other, like, I know Savage Dragon's one of them that shows up in the comic but doesn't show up in the show. And then there's probably some other characters as well.
Yeah, Savage Dragon shows up at
the funeral.
But the thing is, like, so Image Comics is mostly known for Spawn.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was, but it's like Savage Dragon is the almost token of Image Comics. So Madman started off in Savage Dragon, and I think so did Invincible started off in Savage Dragon. So that was a way to kind of throw him into there.
Right. Yeah, so he's kind of like their, I get it, like it's Spawn is their most popular creation, but Savage Dragon is kind of like their dude that they throw, for like intercompany crossovers or like outside company crossovers and stuff. I distinctly remember when I was a kid and I used to read the Sonic Archie comics, and they did a crossover with Image, and like I think I remember Savage Dragon being prominent in that, and then like Spawn was like on the cover, but I think he only shows up for a page or something, and then there was a bunch of other Image characters that
Savage Dragon, Shadowhawk, Spawn, the Max was in there as well.
Right. As far as the crossovers go, I totally forgot about this until I read about it on Wikipedia. But I remember back on Code, back when they were doing, Marvel was like rebooting a bunch of its comics at the time, and they were showing like they were debuting posters for the different lineups for teams and stuff, and like they had character posters. And Image did like a parody of that, and they were talking about the new Guardians of the Globe, and it was Invincible, it was Spawn, Rick Grimes from Walking Dead, Barack Obama, and like a fake Harry Potter. It was incredible. Like I'm looking at the images right now, and it's amazing.
Oh my god, that's good shit right there.
Yeah.
So Matt, I guess what are your general impressions of this show so far?
I really enjoy it. I was definitely looking forward to it. Again, because I wasn't unfamiliar with Invincible, not so much based on that fact, but just based on the fact that Amazon's previous adaptation of The Boys I really enjoyed. So, I just thought, they did that with like that comic, then I'm sure they're doing a good adaptation of this. And then I've heard that their the Tick show that they did was very good as well, and I think Kyle can speak more to that than I can. But yeah, no, I was definitely looking forward to that, and then based just on the fact that when they announced the voice cast and like J.K. Simmons is one of your main characters, I'm like fucking that's enough for me. I'm in.
Great.
And like he's amazing in that. I mean, the whole voice cast is really. And I did just have like a little short list here because there's tons of voice actors in here. But as far as your main characters, your three mains, because it's the family. You got Mark, Debbie, and Nolan. You got Stephen Ewan as Mark / Invincible, and he's mostly known for playing Glenn on the Walking Dead.
And he was just like recently nominated for an Oscar, which is weird.
Yeah, he was.
Which actually, Mel and I actually went and watched Minari. It's not a bad. I mean, I don't know if he's like the strongest part of that movie, but like he was pretty good.
Yeah. Apparently he was a main character in that Voltron show for Netflix.
Yeah, he was.
And then I know that he was in he plays a boyfriend on Tuca and Birdie. And then he's done other voice work and stuff as well. You got Sandra Oh as Debbie, the mom, and she's mostly known for like Grey's Anatomy, but she's done voice work here and there. Like most recently, I distinctly remember her in Raya and the Last Dragon, and then I think she's done like stuff for like other cartoons like American Dragon and some other stuff. And then of course, like I mentioned, J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man. And I don't even have to mention all the shit that he's been in because everyone knows J.K. Simmons. But I mean, it's fucking. He's played, Jonah Jameson in the Sam Raimi trilogy. He's in Legend of Korra. He was in Portal 2, Gravity Falls, Klaus, Zootopia. Like he's just in tons of shit. Like,
I will never get tired of saying Academy Award winning J.K. Simmons is voicing a cartoon again. Because it seems like his main source of work.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is still like so many years later, he's still voicing the yellow M&M.
Yeah, man, I'm sure he gets paid bank for that.
In the fucking M&M's commercials. He's been voicing him since the 90s, like back when he was
on.
on.
Him and Billy West get paid a ton of money to do that.
Yeah, like back when he was starring like in Oz and I think The Wire, like he was doing that, and he's still doing that. It's hilarious to me. But the reason why there's such an uptick in like his voice acting work was because have you heard about this?
No, what are we talking about?
About the reason why J.K. Simmons is voice acting so much stuff now, because back before he didn't really do that much voice work before the Spider-Man movies, but it was after the Spider-Man movies that he started doing way more voice work. As far as I know and can tell, he took out a huge ass loan on a new house, presuming that Spider-Man 4 was going to be a thing.
Oh,
and it didn't happen. So he needed to pick up some fucking jobs, and he just started doing like a ton of voice work. And then, of course, he went on to win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Whiplash. But then he just kept on doing voice work after that, because it's probably, as far as, for a job for something like that, like, for voice acting, it's probably a lot easier. It's probably just like an easy paycheck for him, because when you get J.K. Simmons, you're getting him to fucking just play J.K. Simmons, like,
right.
Yeah, which is that is not like a detriment. That's you want him to do that. Like, he's great. He's great in everything he's in. And he's especially great here.
Yeah, no, he, like, him as Omni-Man, like, that was just like really good casting. I mean, he plays it really well. Especially, I mean, you should be expected from this show by now. We just talk full spoilers, whatever. So if you're listening to this and you haven't watched this show, then here's your warning. But like, especially during that ending scene where he's just beating his son's ass, and we get to like the scene that has become a meme basically now. But like, no, like that was like a really well acted scene where he's just like trying to convince Mark that like, no, you need to help me enslave humanity.
I had to I should make a note here. I had to talk JD out of using that fucking image of him yelling at Mark in the crater for the fucking YouTube image.
That was gonna be the title. That was gonna be the thumbnail.
I get it, it's a meme image, but it's still a giant ass spoiler. Like,
it is, but like, also this. What, Kyle?
If you haven't seen it by now, I mean,
yeah.
It's been out for 2 weeks by the time we're recording this, so I mean, I'm still going to. The thumbnail's been made. It's not that, so it's fine.
But
whatever.
Yeah, no, but, just all the voice actors just deliver really great performances here, and that's not just relegated to the main three there, but I mean, you've got I just put together like a short list of just some of the names that appear in this show, and I'm just gonna rattle them off.
I kind of want to just like kind of shotgun through all the major like the major actors, because like whether it's recurring characters or like just people who have a quick guest spot. I mean, the voice roster on this show is stacked.
Yeah, I mean, you got like Greg Griffin and Kevin Michael Richardson, who show up in like every cartoon, but especially here they play like a lot of characters each.
Mm-hmm.
You got Carrie Payton, who's like mostly known for voicing Cyborg and like all DC projects. Mm-hmm. Jason Mantzoukas, who voices
every asshole.
Yeah, if fucking every asshole and everything he's ever been in, but that's what you want him for, and he's great at it. Zachary Quinto, who is Spock in the Star Trek live action movies now. Mark Hamill, who's like you don't fucking need to say what Mark Hamill's been in, but he plays the superhero Taylor in this. Clancy Brown, who plays like a combination of Hellboy and Rorschach, which is amazing.
Yeah, I fucking love the demon dude.
Yeah, you got Walton Goggins, who's like the lead of the kind of the superhero department or whatever for the government. John Hamm, who voices like an incidental, like weird background character that pops up a couple times, which is funny. Seth Rogen, who's like this alien who like surveys worlds to make sure that they're prepared against alien attacks or something. That's what his whole deal was, right?
Yeah, he was like coming to Earth. I think it was, if I remember right, it was like something about like trying to make sure Earth has protectors or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like how he comes back the second time.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, there's like these oh fuck, what?
Viltrumites.
Viltrumites, thank you. I was blanking on the name. There's a bunch of Viltrumites coming on the way, and Mark's like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "Oh shit, really?"
Although
Fuck, my bad.
Of note specifically for Seth Rogen is because he's an executive producer on this show.
Yeah, he is.
And along with Evan Goldberg, who's also an executive producer on the show, the both of them are actually developing a live action Invincible movie. And they have been for some time. I think they were I think they started doing that a year before Amazon announced that the cartoon was happening. But Robert Kirkman says that the live action film is still happening even after the cartoons come out. So that'll be interesting to see. Especially now, because now that I know like how much content they could cram into like the first season of a show for a comic that's gone on 144 issues, I want to see what the fuck they are gonna like cut and like sort of do for like a movie. Like I need to see exactly. I have an idea of the kind of stuff that they'll focus on and stuff, but it'll just be interesting to see how they try to condense any of this. You've got Mahershala Ali. He's big in Hollywood right now. He's going to be playing Blade in the MCU.
He sure is.
Michael Dorn, who voices the character that probably beats the most ass in this show that we've seen so far. Like, because
aside from Omni-Man, he beats the most ass.
Well, just based on the fact that nobody can fucking beat him, at least from what we've seen so far.
He's like the one undefeated character in the show.
Yeah. Jimon Hansu is on here. I can't remember what character he plays, but he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's in Gladiators and Guardians of the Galaxy.
He was the Emperor of the Martians.
Oh, right. That's what it was. Okay. Ezra Miller, who just is playing like this fucking dweeby little guy who like turns frat boys into robots.
he makes fucking mutant cyborgs.
Yeah.
Who then gets recruited by the government to make mutant cyborgs.
Yeah. Fred Tatasciore, who I can never pronounce that name right. Fred Tatasciore.
I think it's Tatasciore.
Score, who if you have anything like a beastly gruff man voice, he's your go-to guy. Fucking
but
Justin Roiland.
It's weird because he's like Fred is like really known for voicing the Hulk in like animated projects. Like he does such a good Hulk voice, but like this is just like Eve's dad, so you don't even know that it's him.
Yeah, that's true. Justin Roiland voices like a fucking like a 1 minute cameo of a frat boy drinking in the bushes.
If you don't know it's Justin Roiland, you wouldn't know.
Well, you would know specifically because he burp talks, and it's like he's the best at doing that.
Yeah.
Reginald VelJohnson voices the principal like for the 1 minute he's on in this show. I'm sure he'll come on later, but
yeah,
he was in Family Matters. He was also in Die Hard. He shot a kid.
He sure was.
Yeah, so that's just the fucking short list of like some of the people that show up in here. Like it's a great cast. Everyone does the roles really well.
Why was I under the impression that Reginald VelJohnson was dead?
He's not.
I know he's not. I just like why did I think Carl from Family Matters was dead?
Because you're probably confusing him with
Uncle Phil.
Yeah, with James Avery.
Oh,
James Avery Brooks.
I probably am confusing the two. My bad.
Well, both shows on around the same time. They cameoed in each other's shows.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure there was a Family Matters Fresh Prince cross at some point.
A little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as actual content of the show, I mean, I guess it boiled down to its basics. It's a superhero origin story, where.
I mean, the basic conceit of this show is basically, what if Superman had a son and Superman was actually out to murder Earth?
To enslave Earth.
Enslave Earth, right.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to murder anyone who doesn't want to be enslaved.
Yeah.
Enslave/murder, whichever is easiest.
Yeah, and you got your typical, superhero, tropes in here. You've got big team ups. You got learning the powers. You've got government conspiracies. It nails.
You've got your Shield. Invincible has Spider-Man problems. He joins the Teen Titans at one point.
They're called Team.
Whatever. I mean, fucking Omni-Man in the first episode kills the Justice League, who have very distinct parallels to the actual DC Justice League.
Yeah.
So I mean, Kirkman was definitely aping almost parodying DC and Marvel for a lot of the Invincibles, and I'm sure that's on purpose.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of parallels you can bring, but there's also a lot of like really nice original things in here. Just the relationship that Omni-Man is meant to be like Earth's savior, but he's actually here to take over the world. So
yeah, but
it's
it's
a nice
not,
twist on it at least.
Yeah, and it's not even as black and white as that. Like, his character does have depth. Like, it's
right.
We're making it seem like he's just like a mindless murderer or something. But no, he actually does. It's shades of, well, maybe not exactly shades of gray, but it's he has a duty to perform for his race, for his planet. But
Right.
he has a son now, and he's half human, and he does love his wife, his mom and stuff. So it is a very conflicting thing. And I mean, yeah, that paired alongside Mark, Invincible, having his problems with developing his superhero identity and finding his how to use his powers and how to get along with other heroes, and exactly the extent and the toll that doing this job can take on a person, along with trying to balance, a secret identity and that sort of thing, which doesn't even matter because everyone figures out who he is.
Yeah, pretty much all of his friends figure it out pretty easy.
Yeah.
Which, and sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
I was gonna say there's a lot of like jokes that are in the comic that they just don't put in there. It kind of makes me sad.
What kind of
one
jokes?
Of them, well, one of them is they have a teacher, and it's like the first problem they face. This teacher strapping bombs to kids.
Oh shit!
And that kind of was what I guess the missing kids turning into cyborgs. It was kind of a mix between that, but it was more or less strapping bombs to them.
Oh, weird.
So they go. It's him and Adam Eve go to. They have the same teacher, so they go to confront him, and the teacher's just like, "Oh yeah, it's Mark and the girl." And she's like, "Well, how did you know?" He's like, "You're not even wearing a mask. I know who you are."
Oh.
And they never bring that up in the cartoon.
It was weird in the show because no one knows who Eve is until she tells them, and they're like, "Oh goddamn, duh." And she Invincible even asks her, like, "Wait a minute, you're not even wearing a mask." And she's like, no one's looking for a superhero in the school unless they know to look for it. So it's like no one's really looking at her to like, "Oh yeah, you're this character," because it's like, why would you be? Maybe you just look similar or something. But I thought that was kind of a weird explanation to kind of brush that off.
Yeah, and I had a similar thought. I was watching through the show with my roommates, and I had made a remark about how nobody fucking realizes that Mark's dad is Omni-Man because he has the mustache. He doesn't wear a mask. He's built like a brick shit house. He doesn't have a secret identity, as far as I can tell.
No, he does. He does have a secret identity. He's a author. He's a book author. That's why she tells him. Yeah, that's why she tells him like, "Hey, you need to finish your book."
Oh shit!
It would be like if Stephen King was a fucking superhero.
Yeah, I think he writes travel books or something. Like since he can go all over the world, he can write about experiences over the world or whatever.
Oh shit! Okay, they must have not have paid too much time to those comments because that completely.
Yeah, there's very passing remarks about when Debbie basically tells him "Don't you have a book to work on?"
Right. Okay. I kind of assumed that was superhero memoirs or something.
That's what I kind of assumed at first. At first, I literally just looked it up and it says he's a travel author. But I guess that would make sense. But yeah, I thought he was writing a memoir. He just hadn't finished it.
Jeremy Snow here, owner and editor-in-chief of The Geekly Grind. I'm interrupting your awesome, regularly scheduled programming to ensure that you know about our Geekly Grind podcast network, of which this show is a treasured member of. If you haven't had a chance to check out our site, you can do so at www.thegeeklygrind.com, and while you're there, Check out the other members of our steadily growing podcast family, including the anime-centric Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, discovering new heroes and comic book keepers with Chris and Lance, exploring the vast universe of geekdom with Geek Exploration, or of course appreciating animation's finer details with the Ink and Paint Club. Escape your weekly grind at the Geekly Grind.
No, I was just gonna say that I did enjoy exactly how much of the show did kind of revolve around Debbie, because I kind of assumed just when I started the show that she was just gonna be like of course she was gonna be the overbearing mom or the nagging wife or something of the superheroes, but she actually gets a fair bit of play in this show, like mostly relegated to finding out the mystery about if her husband actually killed the Guardians or not, and kind of trying to play behind Omni-Man's back and that sort of thing. And I'm just glad that they decided not to kind of sideline that aspect of it. Like they could have easily just sort of glossed over a lot of that stuff to make room for more superhero stuff. But I think it is important to kind of exhibit a lot of like the human side of shows like this, just to show like exactly the type of stakes that are in play.
Yeah, for sure.
So the other two jokes that I thought were funny that aren't in the cartoon at all, they seem like missed opportunities. When the Immortal is fighting that biplane guy,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and he throws him into space, he says like, when all else fails, throw him into space. In the comic, when he sees Alan for the first time, you see his corpse floating in space in the comic, and I think that's fucking funny because I don't remember seeing that in the cartoon.
No, that is in the show. You do, because that's the character that's like the Vulture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they show his corpse. They show his corpse floating in space.
Okay, shit. I didn't remember seeing that.
Yeah, no, I distinctly remember seeing that. I think that might have been when Mark flew into space for the first time when he goes to the moon.
Okay. Well, the other thing was when he tries on that superhero costume for the first time and it's yellow and orange or whatever, and he tells the tailor like he doesn't like it, whatever. When they're at the superhero tryouts, there's a new superhero wearing that exact same costume. like that guy picked it out, but that wasn't in the show.
That would have been a fun gag, like during the Guardians of the Globe tryouts or something. That would have been really funny to see.
Yeah,
because I think the tailor makes a comment on there how like he always tries to pawn off the base like the default costumes onto new superheroes first before they try to like hit them up for more specifics.
Well, I don't remember if it's either the comic or the cartoon, but he explains that he thought his powers were based on sunlight, like Superman or something like that. So the plates were like batteries or something weird like that.
Oh,
but
shit.
someone else.
Yeah, I don't recall them mentioning that in the show. That might have been just from the comic.
Okay. So someone else was wearing that costume. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I did like that. It was funny.
The show does have some fucking great jokes itself, though. Like, I wanted to ask, does the whole conversation that Omni-Man has with Invincible about how flying is like peeing your pants, is that in the comics?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember that at all.
It's like peeing your pants on purpose.
Yeah. It's fucking ridiculous. And then there's a joke that takes like an episode to like finish, where in the first episode when Mark finally gets his powers, he's like throwing a garbage bag like into a can, but like he fucking overextends and like shoots it off into the air. And then like in the next episode, like in a completely different area, a fucking garbage bag just comes like shooting in from the atmosphere and just explodes all over the like in front of the White House or something, or not the White House, like in London or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's incredible.
I think it's in this one too, but it's like a different take on it. Like something else happens. I don't remember what it was though.
Right, but it's another joke like that where it takes a bit of time to land.
Yeah. And then another funny thing too is let me see here. Oh, it's like almost every issue there's like a Charlie Brown walking around in the background. That's just like a stupid fucking joke.
Like he looks like Charlie. He's got like the yellow black shirt and he's got like the curly Q head.
Yeah.
That's funny. I can see why they wouldn't want to try to attempt that for this show. They might get some lawyers speaking. They can get away with more stuff in comics than you can in television or movies.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just want to say that like I am very impressed on how much world building this show managed to cram in with only 8 episodes, but I think that it also has something to do with the fact that each episode is almost an hour long, which is almost unheard of with animation.
Yeah, this is like one of the only shows I can think of that's like, 45 minutes per episode, but with 8 episodes, if you were cutting them down to half that length, that put in at like, 16 episodes of like a normal length, adult animation or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like how I think the show is paced very well in that regard.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any kind of filler. I feel like they take all the time they need to like establish like Mark and his family dynamic, his friend dynamic, him discovering his powers, like and just like introducing to all these different characters, but giving everybody enough time that you feel like you get to know them enough.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where like it is only 8 episodes, but it's 44 minutes per episode, and I was just kind of thinking how the budget would get allocated around those. There is like a lot of like shots throughout the show where there's like big crowd shots that use like CG models and stuff, and that thing I can sort of I can forget that.
The CGI crowds I'm fine with, but I did want
funky animation in like episode 4, like some weird tweening stuff.
No, it was really weird, and I wish I could remember exactly what episode it was. It's 3 or 4.
I'm pretty sure it's 4. That was because that was what I wrote down.
Where the entire animation style switches to basically puppet animation, where everything else is like just very hand drawn, very well animated too. But for like it's like an episode and a half, it just switches to this really weird looking puppet animation, and I don't know if that was like a budget saving thing, maybe because they have this kind of longer runtime, they kind of had to like maybe cut down the animation budget in the early episodes so they'd really have enough money to really let the end of it shine. But when it showed up, I was really taken aback. I'm like, what's going on here?
But luckily it doesn't stick around, and
it
honestly,
no, it goes away pretty fast.
It's not even like the whole episode. It does show up a lot in that episode, but it does.
Yeah, it goes back and
style.
forth, and it goes back and forth, and I think that's kind of why it bothers me more, because it's not consistent.
Sure.
So you'll get these moments where it goes back to its regular smooth animation, and then it goes back into like the semi choppy puppet stuff, and I'm like, this is just really kind of taking me out of it.
It was a bit strange, but yeah, luckily it's just pretty much for that episode, and then like the rest of the everything before and everything after is like really competently. It's like it's very well done.
All right.
Yeah, so hopefully with the with how successful this show has been, and the fact that they've greenlit 2 more seasons like after the finale aired, like I imagine they're going to be allocated a much larger budget to do these other 2 seasons too. So I'm sure like the animation is even look better than it does here.
Right, yeah. Kyle, since you like I said, you're kind of our comic expert for what because you're actually reading it. Is there anything else that like it's different from the comics that you feel is like kind of significant? Maybe like you wish they would put in, or just like anything that you felt was noticeably different between the two?
There's tons of stuff that's different. The whole thing with Robot getting a body never happened in the comic yet. The whole trip to Mars never happened. The whole machine head fight hasn't happened yet, because this is just strictly to the 13 issues that has this this storyline. A lot of this hasn't happened. A lot of the fights happened with different people. So, like the Martian fight happened with him and his dad, and didn't happen with the team. The whole thing with the Martian constantly getting fucked up and coming back like even more never happened. Just a lot of different stuff. The whole fight with the teacher and the bombs didn't happen in this comic yet, or it hasn't happened. Yeah, there's tons of stuff. The whole thing with Dr. Seismic, I think only Invincible fought him.
Right, because Adam Eve is in that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the frat boys, that I guess never got revealed. And then the interesting stuff that never happened either. So what is it? The Mahler twins?
Yeah.
They never went to jail. They never got busted out for that or anything.
Right.
The guy that lost his powers, his super suit gets stolen from the tailor, and it's like the guy's butler took it, and then the guy's butler crashes the funeral for the Guardians. So he crashes the funeral, and then it becomes this huge thing, and then they take him out, get the super suit back. So that was like a thing they didn't deal with.
Are you talking about Black Samson?
Yeah, because the butler was mad he got kicked out of the team because he didn't have powers.
Right.
And then another thing, I don't know if they're gonna explore it or not, but the Immortal just keeps coming back. after the 13th issue, he comes back and like talks to Mark too. So even though he gets fucking killed at the end of that one, he comes back again. And I think they do show it that the government's like working on him with the whole light thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the bits of the Immortal, like when they fucking like are able to when the Mahler twins like fix him, and like he's just immediately the first thing he's just like yelling like a crazy man, like, you know, where the fuck's is Omni Man? Like just goes to, like, beat his ass. Like I really do hope they keep on bringing him back.
So that actually does happen. It's the Mahler twins fix him up, and they put a mind control device on him, and as soon as he snaps to, he breaks the mind control device and just blind rage goes into
It just leaves. Just immediately.
So you were saying that in the comics, the Mahler twins, well, because you said the stuff with Robot getting his new body happens like later, or like hasn't happened yet. So I know in the show, Robot's the one that the Robot gives them that device to use on the Immortal, but it doesn't work. So do they just have that in the comics, or do they get it from somebody else?
They just make it themselves.
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough.
From what I remember.
The fucking Mahler.
Yeah, because so they what happens is they steal a shitload of like game consoles, and I think that's one of like Invincible's kind of first fights. He stops one of them, I think. I think it's only one at the time, but they use these game consoles because I guess it's like the state of the art stuff to make the mind control thing, and it just doesn't work.
Okay.
I knew there was a reason no one can get a PS5.
And then the whole thing with the lizard people or whatever, Invincible was part of that fight too. And then it's certain things like Shrink Ray was a guy.
Huh.
So he was changed to a guy, and yeah.
And you had mentioned that other characters kind of changed, like, because you were saying that in the comics, Invincible and Debbie, they're like white, right? And they're not Asian.
Invincible's white. Was that the black girl's Debbie? I don't fucking remember her name.
No, Debbie's the mom.
Oh yeah, well both of them are white.
Amber.
You mean
Amber.
Fuck. Amber.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Amber is white. It's a blonde girl.
Right, and I think that
Um,
makes sense because I think they styled her after Zazie Beetz, who's her voice actress.
Yeah, there's different stuff where it's like it doesn't bother me. Usually shit like that really bothers me because it's not to the source material, but I think it's changed for the better, honestly.
Sure.
Then, like I said earlier, the best friend, he keeps talking about how much of a chick magnet he is, but I don't know if that's a cover or not. They haven't said it yet. As far as I am in the comic, could be
Right.
gay. Who knows?
Right, because in the show he's very open about being gay.
Yeah.
Which also plays basically the whole that whole episode with him going to the college and like the guy that he's into like getting turned into the robot and stuff. That's kind of like a big part of that the plot of that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's kind of interesting. And then that whole squid thing, it was just like a chicken mixed with a squid. Really weird design, so they changed that a lot. But what happens is pretty much right after he fights it for the first time is when the immortal starts fighting with Omni-Man.
Right.
So
Hmm.
there was no news for the thing that happened in the comic. There was no news things that wasn't being broadcast across the earth. It's just Mark witnessed what his dad did.
Oh, but nobody else did.
Yeah, and then apparently he's wearing like a Bluetooth device, and everybody like heard it in the government, and then I guess that's how they let his mom hear it.
Oh, okay.
That's where
So
it's like it's stuff like that where it's got streamlined in the cartoon itself.
Right.
yeah, and definitely in a lot of cases, yeah, for the better. It's just one of those things where because Robert Kirkman is advising on the show and everything like it because he even wrote the season premiere and the season finale if I read right. So it's just one of those things where enough time has passed where yeah, like you mentioned, it's kind of like it's a bit of a director's cut now where he can kind of as the years have gone on and kind of like his abilities as a storyteller have progressed and stuff. So to see like how he can sort of redo like the source material to fit better.
Yeah, it's the thing where it's not like a Star Wars thing where they added a bunch of CG bullshit that didn't need to be in there.
No, it's more like Dragon Ball Z Kai, where like they went back and they took like everything that they did and just cut it down to all the essential stuff that like mattered or something.
I don't know if that's a good comparison. I don't think Kai's really liked all that well.
Well, no, but what I mean is that it's more strictly like it doesn't include like a bunch of extraneous stuff for the sake of including it or for making up for lost time or anything. It's like it would have been more apt comparison if they were trying to do an Invincible cartoon back when the comic came out or something, much in the same way like we were talking about Image stuff earlier in Savage Dragon, because they did a Savage Dragon cartoon back in the 90s, like back when the comic was going and everything, and I imagine if they had done it like much later, they would have had a lot more stuff to pull from source material instead of having to make stuff for the show or that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
The weird thing with Savage Dragon now is I think the Sun's doing it now or something, and it's like Savage Dragon's kind of black now, so it's really weird.
So so it's Savage Dragon's like a legacy character now, where they like pass down the mantle or something, right?
Yeah, I think it's his son doing it now, and it's not that great looking, but I think it's still ongoing. That's why I think it's like Image's thing, because I don't even know if Spawn's still going.
Spawn is absolutely still going. I know that for a fact.
Is it?
Yeah. I know they just passed like issue 300 or something, like in the past like couple of years or something. Maybe it wasn't 300. I know they celebrated some big important milestone because I have a buddy of mine who runs a comic shop, and so I always see when they promote like like big issues and stuff. And so I distinctly remember him talking about that.
I always thought it was just kind of like once in a while, kind of like the Ticks. Whenever the Tick does a comic, it's just like, oh yeah, a new one just came out. It's
Right.
like whenever
The creator feels like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure Spawn is still ongoing as well. I was more surprised at the fact that you're saying the Savage Dragon's still ongoing.
Oh yeah, it says 2020 right here. Huh.
Well, yeah, because I kind of assumed like it was like other Image comics of the day, like the Max or something, where it was able to like finish its run or something.
Yeah.
Which if we're talking like great adaptations of comics to cartoons, I still think the Max is like the bar for that. Like
I just downloaded all of the Max, and I'm kind of excited to read it too.
Yeah, I definitely would like to read. I actually, my brother used to read through it, so I have a bunch of issues like in like little plastic sleeves and stuff still from back in the day.
Oh wow.
I have it digital copies if you want them.
I would be interested in that.
And then,
but yeah, no, fucking yeah, just another Image property that got a really good adaptation as well. And then also, I'm just now realizing that Image has had like now with Invincible, because the Savage Dragon had a cartoon. Max had a cartoon, and then Spawn had the HBO cartoon, which is great as well. And then I'm not sure if there's any other that I'm thinking of, but 4 like that's still more than other companies have. Like,
yeah, it's not Image, but I also bought the original Mask comics, and I'm kind of excited to read those too.
Nice.
I'm waiting for a fucking adaptation of The Mask that is like, don't get me wrong, I love the Jim Carrey Mask movie, but I've read issues of the actual Mask comic, and I would love to see a movie more based on like what happens in those. Like, as far as I could tell, that the original movie was supposed to be more like that, but when they decided when they got Jim Carrey on board and they wanted to kind of tailor it more towards the younger audience, that was kind of what didn't allow them to do that. So, I mean, like I said, I love that movie. I love what it turned into, but like, I would love to see an adaptation now, especially with like visual effects and movies, how they are now, to see like a lot of shit that happens in The Mask. Like, that'd be incredible.
It's interesting because in The Mask, I think the main character that the movie's based on dies in the first issue. Like
Stanley Ipkiss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, hey, Amazon, fucking go do a adaptation of The Mask, like live action or animated. It doesn't matter. Do one of them.
Yeah, man.
It'll be great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd honestly say like this is a really good show so far. I mean, I'm really intrigued of what's going on, and like even having I like honestly, I think I may have heard of Invincible before, but I basically knew nothing about this show or this property before the show came out. So like I'm really intrigued by the world that they built here, the characters and all that. And I was really glad to hear that Amazon has already greenlit 2 more seasons of this. So at least we because I really want to see like Omnimon. Omnimon. Sorry, I just watched Digimon earlier. Omni-Man is off, like left the planet in a huff, and we don't know where he is. So I want to see what happens when he brings all of his kind back.
Yeah, really.
That'll be good. Well, boys, is there anything else you want to bring up before we start wrapping up?
Nope.
There was one last thing I forgot to bring up when we're talking about the Mahler twins, but I think the scene that made me laugh like the most was when the one twin is trying to make another clone, and like he just gets a bunch of fucking like, what was it, Burger Mart in the show? He gets like a bunch of like burger patties and just starts emptying them like into the chamber, and like he's just making a fucking clone out of hamburger patties. Like, it was fucking ridiculous.
No, he's feeding them.
I know,
that's what it was.
Yeah. It's still ridiculous. Like the image of him just like with these boxes full of fucking burgers, feeding them in like a fucking like, big old tube. Like it's hilarious to me.
I gotta say the Mauler twins are probably one of the better parts of this show.
They're great. They're
I always
hilarious.
loved any time that they show because they're like these giant fucking. It's like they're evil, ideal version of the Hulk. It's like Hulk if he was a evil super scientist.
Yeah, if it was like Smart Hulk, but like two of them.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I like that they never know who's the original.
Yeah, that's the other. And it is cool that they kind of brought that fact up, like when robots making the other body to replace his like fucked up body.
It's like, oh yeah, we were kind of hoping we wouldn't have to,
deal with this
the cloning process. You would never have to know who the original is, but I guess you know who it is.
I guess it's more apparent here.
Yeah, because fucking robot. They show his fucking gross Quado body.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought was fucking. He was like a fucking dead ringer for like Quato from Total Recall.
Right. It's fucking
Wait. Start the reactor.
Yeah, good shit, everybody.
Yeah, no, the show's amazing. Fucking all the characters are great. The voice acting is great. The story is great so far. Just yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to those next 2 seasons, and I might check out the comic and waiting for that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everybody, I think that'll do it for this week. Let us know what you thought about it. Watch. It is available all on Amazon Prime. Amazon's got some good stuff. I mean, it's not something I regularly go to, but when something new comes out and it's good, I always check it out. And like we said, if you liked this first season of Invincible, you got 2 more on the way. So hopefully they won't keep us waiting too long on that.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that'll do it for us this week. Everybody stay safe, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Thanks for listening. You can find all the links to our social media pages in the episode description. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. The Ink and Paint Club is happy to be part of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.